When it comes to photography, there are a number of cameras out there. For this video, I wanted to focus on what kind of cameras I use and the combination of lenses that I use with it. And I'm not trying to be a salesperson for these brands. This is just based off of the technical aspects they have along with the type of experience I've had with them. So let's get started. Most photographers, they will tell you they probably have a favorite lens that they like to use. For me, it's the Rokinon 35mm f-stop 1.4. 35mm is one of the most versatile focal lengths out there. It's wide enough to get coverage, but it also works well for close-ups. All you have to do is walk a few feet and you got a nice tight shot. Besides being a 35mm focal length, the aperture on it goes pretty wide, and that's 1.4. What I like about it is that it's sleek, modern looking, looks perfect on my Sony cameras. It also is a pretty light lens. There's a downside where there's no physical way to go between auto and manual focus, and it solely relies on your camera body. So if your camera suddenly loses contact with the lens, then SOL. But for the most part, this lens has always been trusty and very handy. But I have to give credit to Rokinon. They jumped on to the mirrorless train and made this for the Sonys, and it became my favorite lens. With the 35mm lens, I like to attach that to my Sony A7S II. I love using the 7S II for both video and photo. The main reason I chose the 7S II over the other models out there, it's mainly because of the 4K video function. And actually, I'm recording this video with the 7S II right now. Like I said, the internal 4K video function is one of the highlights as to why I picked the A7S II. The other selling point for me is that this camera does well in low light. Sometimes I'm shooting at night, so I need that leeway where I don't have lights all the time. I like using this camera body with the Rokinon 35, mainly because it's the full frame coverage and also the weight and the length of the lens fits well with the full camera body. The Rokinon is a nice combo for the 7S II. It's pretty sharp, and I think it just goes well with the 7S II body. Along with the 7S II, I have these hot shoe covers. I found these ones with a bubble level that you could attach to the top, but I like attaching it once in a while so that way I can make sure I get an even plane photo. I've noticed that carrying the A7 bodies, sometimes it's a little bit hard grip. So I found this little nifty cold shoe mount where it has a little bit of a thumb grip. It just gives you a nice thumb placement. The next piece of equipment I use all the time is a Rokinon 24mm f-stop 2.8. This guy is very versatile. 24mm focal length, so it's really wide. It's very light and somewhat plasticky, so I'm not a fan of that. The f-stop's not bad. 2.8, you know, it gets the job done. Most of the photos on my Instagram are done with this lens and the A6500. They also make this in a 35mm and a 45mm, and I believe recently they just came out with a 75mm. So if you need a budget lens, this is probably one of the best ones to go with. The other camera I have in my arsenal is a Sony A6500. This camera, it's pretty small, it's very easy to carry around, perfect for travel, perfect for just everyday walking around, street photography stuff. This has an APS-C sensor, so that means the field of view is a little smaller, but I think it gets the job done. I like using this camera with this lens because of the size, and also it's a good combination because with this being an APS-C sensor, this 24mm on a full frame camera becomes roughly a 36, which is kind of like the focal length that I like using. To be honest, this model is actually a few years old. I chose an older model partly because it's cheaper, but the technical aspects on it are a lot closer to what I'm looking for when it comes to a camera. The 6500 shoots 4K, which is perfect because then I can use it as a second camera in my shoots. It also has internal body stabilization, whereas the A6400 didn't really have that. Plus, I wasn't really a big fan of the A6400. It's like, I don't know, it's like the uppity flip screen. To me, it was more of a gimmick, not much of a improvement. And there you have it. Those are the main cameras that I use. I'm not sponsored by any of these guys. This is more of just personal experience and just doing a lot of research. Maybe I'll be swayed to go to another brand. I mean, it all depends on just the technical aspects and just what I'm looking for. I encourage that you find your own and share them with me.